So when it comes to fighting in Steelrising, let's start right from the beginning. So we have R1 for the light attack. This is of course different for each weapon. We have R2 for the heavy attack. These can both be chained with themselves for longer periods. In some weapons this works better than others, and in some cases as well, we can also chain light attacks with the heavy attacks back into light attacks, if you so desire. In addition to this, we also have jumping combos. Most of them are 3 hits, followed by a heavy at the end if you want to exhaust that kind of combo. And we also have the special attack, which on the halberd is the gun. The L1 button, for those that don't know, if we hold that in and then click in the movement button, will actually start us to walk. And if we click in the button again, that will start us to run. It's a strange thing to put there, but that's what it is. Next to them we have triangle. This is for venting. This doesn't usually work too well for me outside of combat. It seems like combat changes how things work. We'll see that goes up and we press Y, and that'll cool us off. And you can see that frost build up there. If that gets all the way to the top, we will be frozen in place. You can button mash to wriggle out of it quickly, but I recommend avoiding doing that if at all possible. Square is going to be used whichever item we have selected down in the bottom left. We'll use a oil barrette, just because those reset upon using one of the chairs. We have circle for dodge, and if you dodge when you are close to an enemy, it will actually loop you around so that you can get behind it nice and easy. This is something you can use to your advantage in a lot of encounters, particularly if you really want to kind of stay behind something. I can't quite tell if there are true iframes or not. It definitely seems fairly reasonable to, in general, be dodging the physical attacks of most enemies, which is fine. And then X is jump, which is also another good way to avoid some attacks. In particular, in this second area of the beta, there are some pot boys, and jumping over their pots seems quite advisable to me. Obviously, we then have the right thumbstick. If we come up here, you'll see we'll be able to lock on and disengage. Clicking in the left stick is going to allow us to sprint. This is a click in to sprint. We can click it again to turn that off if we want to, or you can just let go of the stick. That's all fine. We then have the D-pad buttons. So up is going to be switch weapon. I mean, you should generally have 2 weapons equipped. As soon as you have a second one, it's going to switch which weapon we have equipped. Left and right is going to change the item, and down is set to cancel tutorials. So when tutorials come up, or we are like reading a piece of paper, because there are like lore items in the game, press down and that'll bring that off the screen. A quick touch on the menus. We're only going to realistically cover combat stuff here. Obviously you can equip your weapons left and right, some armor, but more importantly for the sake of this video then, we have the ability to equip items to our quick belt. All we need to do is select the item we want and where we want it to go, and as you can see, if you click the same item again, that will in fact remove it or swap it within the tool belt. As we perform actions, you guys saw already, this will consume stamina. If we take damage, that will drain our red bar at the top, which is our health. Now, not only do attacks cause physical damage, and I'll try to demonstrate on this guy here, but it does tend to not build up very quickly. We can also build up something called Immobilization. Now, as you can see, the diamond we have on the enemy just ahead of us is completely empty, and you might think that's just normal, and it kind of is. It's going to make me crit it, isn't it? That's such a shame. So what you'll see with the empty diamond just here, when I can get some attacks in, is that the diamond will actually fill up. If we get that to the full, we'll actually open the enemy up to a critical attack. Now, I found that this isn't very easy to do most of the time. I usually either end up freezing myself in the process, or the enemy is pretty much dead, as you can see just there. So I tend not to go for the immobilization. When you are looking at the stats of your weapon, you can see just there we have immobilization of 25 on the halberd. And we also have impact. This is your weapon's ability to knock things over. Currently, the highest that I've seen is the Wheel of Vengeance, which is quite good, but it's really short range. We'll give it a go though, why not? I find that the charge attack on this does pretty well if we can get it off. See, it just knocks him over. It's pretty much just a trip over weapon, right? That's what's going to cause him to knock over. I don't know if it does it still on the light attack. It does, because that has quite a high impact rating. And so what we find when we have a weapon that's got a more mediocre amount of impact rating, so if I just hit you with the R2, it doesn't quite knock him down, but if I do charge it up, it will knock him down, although he just died there. It's worth noting that the knockdown stat seems to work slightly differently, depending on the enemy and whether or not they are attacking, so it's not quite as visible and reliable as the immobilization. Next up then, we have 3 types of status. We have fire, ice, and lightning. Each of them do something different. So Most of them are fairly obvious though. So the fire one does damage over time. Hopefully it won't insta-kill this guy. You can see it does some damage over time, kind of nice. The ice, as you might think, will freeze it in place. Note that depending on what you do, if you just attack it once, it'll kind of bring it down a little bit. If you do a big attack, it'll knock it out of it. And then lightning will make it so that enemies take more damage, which I'll try to demonstrate on this guy here. I'm going to throw some lightning at you. Oop. 92 damage. I suppose we don't have anything to compare that to in the video, but that is what lightning does. These are stackable if you can manage to get them on something twice. So for example, we could set you on fire, and then we could... It's not going to let me do it quick enough. And then we could build up the ice on there and leave it frozen to burn, if that's what you so want to do. That's definitely a doable thing. We've done it before in the video. And then I feel like we'll close on something a little bit more defensive. So we have a few things that we can defend ourselves with. We, of course, have healing. We have two types of healing. The first one is the renewable source of healing. This is the oil beret. This will heal a set amount of health and regenerates back to whatever your capacity is each time you rest at the chair. The second one then is the ordinary oil vial, which is fantastic and heals over time. We can pop this at pretty much any time, so I could pop one now, and you can see that it's counting down. And so if you can do this proactively to make sure that if something hits you, you're already regenerating the health, which is actually at a pretty good rate, as you can see. In addition to this then, there are some weapons that have a block. This takes a little bit of stamina, and you can in fact attack from this, but you can't really parry. In addition to that, we do in fact have one weapon in the beta that does come with a parry baked in, and the response is pretty good if we can get it to come off. So, those are our offensive and defensive options.